continuing our conversation now with Thomas Warren on the West Coast, who is with the NFL Networks and who has written a very poignant article on what it is like to be Black in America. And Thomas, how do you get past the fear factor in white America? Because their numbers are shrinking. I mean, this discussion in 1968, they were 60 to 70% of the population, depending on where you lived. That's not the case anymore in states like California, in states like Florida, even Texas, Arizona. The number of Black, brown, and Asian people now outnumber the number of white people. So how do you get them to understand that as go Black people now, so will you go tomorrow?
That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I wish I was an expert, but yes, like you mentioned here in California, I mean, the numbers, they speak for themselves. And I think it's really a matter of how much do you want our society and our culture, especially in California, to be inclusive. It's no longer possible to isolate themselves or isolate yourself. We're a changing culture, a changing society. And so, unfortunately, I think it's just a matter of you can't change what the numbers are. So you're either going to buy in and want to be a part of the change, or you cannot be, and then you're just going to fall by the wayside. And I'm hoping this is a moment where because of what happened to George Floyd, we're seeing a lot of, for me, the first time I've seen white people really listen to what the grievances of Black people are. And I think it's a lot of people are saying the right things because they don't want to be seen as being on the wrong side of history. So now it's taking those words and the right words and putting them into action, because I don't think we're going to go back. I don't know how we can go back, especially when you have the sentiments of white people who seem to really, really get it or say that they get it and want to change.
I want to go to the sports world for a second, because the sports world is now going through its own internal changes. Of course, there's the situation with the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, but also you've got Greg Popovich. So how do we as Black Americans have this dialogue with white Americans without putting them all in the same boat? Because not all white people hate all Black people. Not all white cops are bad. Not all Black cops are good. How do we have this discussion?
Well, it's coming from a place of understanding. I think most rational Black people don't think that white people hate Black people, but it's a matter of getting. I'll put it this way: we're in an age where no one can any longer say, "I didn't understand, I wasn't aware, I didn't know." I think when those things are uttered, I think for Black people, then it says that you don't really care about the things that I go through. So what we're saying is, just have understanding, come to the conversation with an open mind, because again, we've had to leave so many of the conversations and movements that we understand our role. And we're not saying you need to listen to us, you need to hear everything we say, you need to believe everything we say. What we're saying is just come to the table with an open mind, and we're gonna go through this together. And that's the biggest message. It's not on white people to, as you mentioned, take on every aspect of Black people and Black culture, but just be willing to come to the table with an open mind.
So, and that's why the Drew Brees situation comes to mind, because one of the things that he said he was going to do after, first of all, saying that he didn't understand why people would kneel during the national anthem, and then now saying he understands, is he said he was going to listen. How do we get white America just to not necessarily to judge, not even necessarily to engage in the conversation, but to just listen?
I heard Drew's comments. I actually heard comments last night by Vince Scully, somebody who I tell people was the soundtrack of my childhood, broadcasting Dodger games when I woke up or when I grew up in LA. And he said at I guess a recent event that he will no longer watch the NFL because of players wanting to take a knee during the national anthem. And it's disappointing because, as you mentioned with the Drew Brees comments, it's the military that comes up in questions of patriotism. But it's disappointing knowing that Black people fight in the military. We are part of that. And so it's not recognizing the bigger picture in that we're patriots. We love this country as much as anyone else does. We helped build this country. So to try to separate the two really is, I just don't see the sense in it. And to use that as the national anthem as a way to distract. And to me, it's a distraction to the real issues that we're talking about.
Going to take one more break. When we come back, I want to talk about something that I've long called the intellectual shackles of slavery. So stay with us.